Welcome, welcome, welcome to the PISCOPOD, episode number 16. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me. Number 16. Wow, eh? They're just flying along, and I'm glad to be doing this. It's kind of cathartic and therapeutic both at the same time for me. I don't really pay attention to how many people are listening. This just gives me a chance to vocalize, what I see going on and, the way that I'm seeing things and, judging by some of the feedback that I've been getting, it kind of resonates with a lot of people. So I appreciate that. I'm glad that, I don't want to say I'm glad. It's just nice to know that, there's other people that are going through the same things that you're going through, kind of thing. You're not going crazy and imagining things, because it's getting crazier and crazier every day. The peace deal in the Middle East, I reported on that last week, and I was apprehensive as to how well this was going to go. So fast forward a week and here we are. And from what I've been hearing on early reports and stuff like that, both sides have already reneged on their ceasefire. So peace lasted literally a week, and they're back at it. Both sides. Again, I'm not one of those free Palestine guys. I think both sides both sides play a big part of what's going on over there, plain and simple. It's been going on for decades upon decades upon decades. But everybody was hopeful for a peace deal, and, it seemed, like brighter days ahead, but when you've been enemies for that long and both sides are warmongering genocidal lunatics, when I talk about the Jews, I'm not talking about the Jewish people per se. I'm talking about the state of Israel, the government. A lot of the Jewish people that live in Israel, they're actively trying to get Netanyahu out of power because he's corrupt and look at what he's been doing. But having said that, they do have the right to defend themselves. And if you got a bunch of fucking lunatics that are flying hang gliders into a music festival and slaughtering, 13 or 1,400 people, if you've caught some of the video that's come from that day, because they gleefully filmed everything, of course, to load up on their social media, because that's the kind of bloodthirsty monsters that you're dealing with on that side, as far as the ruling party of that area. You can be against both of them. We live in an age here nowadays where, like, it's black and white. It's got to be this or it's that, right? You're either 100% for the Jews, or you're an anti-Semite, or you're either 100% for the Palestinians, or you're an Islamophobe, or, all these fucking labels, right? And the bottom line is, like, what's right and what's wrong? Did the Jewish people have a right to defend themselves from the October 7th thing? Absolutely. Was that a convenient thing to have happen in order to implement what we're seeing now that has happened, right? Literally killing tens of thousands of women and children, and no fucks given. Speaking of no fucks given, on home soil here, both in Canada and our southern neighbor, the United States, we had the No Kings rallies going on. And what do you think about that, folks? Chime in, send me a message. Let me know what you think about that. Here's my take on it. I call it the no brains thing because if you've seen a cross section of, who they've been interviewing during these protests, I mean, what can you say? They're like lunatics. The irony of the fact that they're marching for no kings while being funded by billionaires while they're protesting against billionaires, it's funny. These people are laughing at all of us because it's like, check these guys out. We're paying so that these idiots can storm in the streets and talk about the no kings and this, that, and the other thing. And basically, to me, it's it's just sore losers. I mean, you get it on both sides when, elections go one way or another, but I've never seen anything. They're saying 7 million people gathered across the country or whatever. I think it was just in the United States. They say 7 million. Now, are those numbers inflated? Of course they are, because they're being reported by legacy media. And we all know that legacy media is full of shit. And you can't believe anything that they tell you, right? So was it 7 million or was it maybe like 1.5 million? Either way, it was a lot of people that were marching in the streets. Do they realize that, this chaos is just being funded to disrupt the fabric of society, for lack of a better word? Do these people know that this is how they're being played? Because last time I checked, kings aren't elected. They're saying it's like the end of democracy, and meanwhile they're protesting a democratic election. The majority spoke, your team lost, and the ideal thing is that you kind of shake hands across the aisle and make things happen for your citizenry. And it doesn't matter what country you look at nowadays. Here in Canada, the same thing. It's all about power. It's all about power. Our liberal government, they don't give a shit what the Western provinces want. They're getting all sneaky and conniving in order to, they're trying to talk NDP, which is a losing party up here in Canada. They're trying to talk some NDP benchers to join the Liberal Party, which then again by default and by chicanery would give the Liberal government a majority government, right? So it has nothing to do with, like, maybe I should do something for the citizens of Canada because they clearly fucking hate me. But no, the idea is like, what can I do? What loopholes can I slither through in order to maintain power and in order to do exactly what I want to do without consulting anybody, really, which is basically what's happened up here. So back down to the No Kings thing, we had protests here. I seen one online in Ottawa, of course. And again, the irony of Canadians protesting a No Kings fascist dictator down south, as they like to believe, to protest him down south. Meanwhile, their prime minister that they voted in is trying to pass draconian internet and speech laws, which will basically have us moving right in behind the UK and what they're experiencing now. So if you are following what's happening in the UK, it's pretty scary that if you're a new Canadian, let's just pretend that this is happening the way it is in UK. If you're well, no, we'll just talk about how it's happening in the UK. Fuck it. That's what we're going to talk about. So in the UK, if you're a Muslim and you get caught soliciting minors for all sorts of inappropriate things, the magistrates over there, they'll let you go with a slap on the wrist because it's a cultural thing and all sorts of things leaning toward, that he's an immigrant and he doesn't know better and it's a cultural thing. And we're going to let him go with a slap on the wrist. That's how it's happening a lot of the time. That's how it's happening here in Canada a lot of the time as well. So that scenario gets you a slap on the wrist and you're home with your family by dinner time and all is shits and giggles. Now, on the other hand, in that same part of the world, in the UK, if you post a text or share a meme that they consider Islamophobic, and that's a pretty broad, they use a pretty broad paintbrush in order to jack people out of their homes and off the streets and stuff like that, from everything that I've been seeing. Thank God that we have the internet, that stuff like this can actually be posted, because you don't hear about this on legacy media, I assure you. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, there's someone close to me, older than me, and not big on the tech, doesn't have a Facebook page, no Instagram, no shit like that, has a cell phone, has all the bells and whistles on it, uses the phone, occasionally texts, is just mastering how to send emojis and stuff like that. You get it, right? So their devices that they're using are not their primary, or at least even a secondary source of information. And so when we're together for Thanksgiving, for instance, and we're talking about stuff, they're just like dumbfounded as to like, what? Where's that happening? Where's this going on? And it's like, right fucking here in Canada for this and that, and over in the UK, that and that, and down in the States, that and that and that. And they're just blown away because their primary source of information is the Canadian legacy media, which is censored, to say the least, by any stretch of the imagination compared to, say, like a U.S. publication. We don't even get stuff in here. I've had stuff on my Facebook be shut down for sharing a story that I got off of Facebook from a Canadian source and then trying to share it on my Facebook. I'm in Canada, and they shut my account down for like a week or 15 days or something like that. And it's crazy. It's crazy. This is the new World War III. It's the war on information. And I mean, it's information all the way down the pike, right? From your sexuality and your gender to the stuff that you're seeing on the news, the stuff that they're telling you, the stuff that they're not telling you, all that stuff. And if you're using legacy media, you're certainly not getting the entire picture. Like I said, the No Kings thing, it was attended by people that a couple of years ago during COVID, they were the ones that would rat out their neighbor because they had family come over for Christmas, or they complied and shut their businesses down and wore masks and stayed 6 feet apart and let loved ones die in old folks' homes alone because someone told them you can't do it. It's risky. You can't go out. You can't go see these people. You can't be with family. The biggest bullshit that that's ever been perpetrated on humankind, in from my opinion, at least while I'm alive. Anyway, I'm sure that there's been worse things that have happened, but this was like a serious, controlled exercise in manipulation, control, and how far that they could push things before the peasants started to revolt, if you will. That's what they did it for. I had a friend reach out that he wanted me to do some information on vaxing, and I will do an episode on that, because I started going down that rabbit hole after I got a message from him, and it's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild. The things the side effects and all that stuff. Again, it was something that was just like out of the box, brand new. So, if it's the first run out, of course there's going to be shit that happens. But to force people to do that in order to basically survive, in the sense that there was a lot of employers that if you didn't have your vaccination, you couldn't come to work, you couldn't fly, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. So it's basically, they forced an experimental drug into you. Now, I can already hear it through my headphones. People are like, "Oh, fuck, Sasha's one of those anti-vaxxers." I'm not. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. As a matter of fact, both my wife and I, her through her work, I think it was mandatory for her. So whatever, that isn't why she got it, because she had to, and I didn't have to. And I'll be honest, I got the first one and I got the second one, and so did she. She got the initial shot, and then she got the first booster, or whatever, the second booster. So we each had 2 shots altogether. When I'm asked, did you get the third or the fourth or the fifth? It's like, no, because when they started rolling out the third one, I knew that something was up. You know what I mean? First of all, I had both the shots, and both my wife and I had COVID. My wife had it twice. I actually had long COVID, where I had this nasty cough that literally... I don't even remember. It was like months and months and months. I was hacking like I'm doing like 50 bong rips a day. So the shot certainly did not do anything to prevent us from getting COVID, as they so advertised at the beginning, right? You got to get the shot because... first it was it'll prevent it, or first it was it would prevent it, and then when they seen that was bullshit, then it was like, well, you can still get it, but the symptoms won't be as bad. And it's like, how do you know? How do you know this? If I'm a healthy person, if I'm a healthy person, eat my vitamins, eat good food, whatever, exercise like I'm supposed to, how do you know that if I catch it without your drugs and experimental shit coursing through my veins, how do you know that that by me getting the shot, if I do catch it, it's not, the effects will not be as harsh? It's bullshit. They bullshitted us, all of us. And I have diehard people that I was arguing with. It's like, fuck, just get the fucking vaccine already, But like I said, after they rolled number 3 out, I did the first one, the second one after it was like, oh yeah, this is like a fucking anti-COVID fucking 2.25, whatever. It's like, no, fucking, I'm out. At that point, I knew I'm not a guinea pig, man. If the first one doesn't work and the booster doesn't work, I'm not going to go, well, hey, let's try this combination of shit, and then let's try this combination of stuff. And they don't even know what the effects of whatever it is that they're doing, from the mere standpoint that this was something that they had not anticipated, right? So it's not like they've been working in the background in order to, let's up our world supply of COVID-19 anti-vax or whatever, or antibodies, right? So they lied about that. They lied about the origins of it. I remember people were having a fucking meltdown when Donald J. Trump, he would call it the China virus. Yes, it's the China virus. And the reporters, they would lose their marbles where it's like, that's racist. Why do you call it the China virus? And he's like, because that's where it came from. And they're like, no, that was like from some, a pangolin kissing a fucking fruit bat, and it was all bullshit. It was, and everybody knew it was bullshit. Only those smooth brains among us were like, oh, maybe it did come from a wet market. Even though the Institute of Virology that studies COVID-19 by chance is right there in that place, Wuhan, but no, if you even suggested that it was either an intentional or an accidental lab leak, you were like literally canceled. If you were like a reporter, or even if you had like a YouTube channel with, some noteworthy followers or whatever, and you talked about stuff like that on your YouTube channel, you'd be done. They'd pull it. It's like, yeah, you're sharing false information. And it wasn't. It wasn't false. We didn't know, but we knew. We knew. And yeah, they gaslit us all, told us we're full of shit, told us we're racist, told us we're tinfoil hat wearing stuff. And boom. Right? 5 years later, it's like, yeah, we were right all along. They were lying to us. So I still have people in my orbit that I love dearly that, that's just, it's all coincidental. It's all coincidental. They don't believe that the government is actively trying to screw you. And it doesn't matter whether you're left or right, up until what's happening in the United States now, right? Because it wasn't until that outsider came in and shook things up that you seen how stacked the deck was against people. It doesn't matter who you vote for, you're still getting screwed. They manipulate the media. They manipulate the facts of like why you would send your sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and husbands and wives, to die on foreign soil for noble causes, and the noble causes are all just bullshit. Whatever, they have a team of people that'll be like, here's how you rah the serfs, if you will. Here's how you rah them, and you tell them this, and you do that, and you show them this, and they'll just be salivating, 9/11, like, what a better way to get us into get the world into a 20-year war. That's how long, 20-some years the United States was over in Afghanistan, costing trillions of dollars, millions of lives lost on the Middle Eastern side, tens of thousands of lives lost on the American and the Canadians and the ally, the good guys, if you will. And it was all for nothing. It was all not for nothing. Let's not dismiss it that easily. It was not all for nothing. It was all by design in order to make a lot of wealthy people a lot wealthier, and a lot of wealthy people being able to stack the deck so that they can basically just play chess and checkers with everybody's lives, the citizens of the world. Do you know what I mean? Like we can send a missile through a kitchen window from another continent to kill a terrorist, but we can't figure out how to feed Ethiopian people. Like, does that make any sense? That's bullshit, is what it is. It's bullshit. Anyway, so all this is going on. The seasons are changing. Notice I'm in hoodie weather. We've, where I am here in the beautiful foothills of the Rocky Mountains, the weather is up and down like a toilet seat. And I spent most of the weekend, my wife and I, packing shit up. That's what we do up here. Because the winters can get brutally cold with a ton of snow. And so, everybody is like mowing one last time and raking the leaves while they can, because those are still on the tree. It seems like that we went from a rainy spring, which lasted like most of the summer, and then we had about 6 weeks of nice weather, and then it went. One day it was like, oh, look at how the beautiful leaves are turning. And then the next day it's like fucking snow. But this is par for the course in where I'm living. So we're used to it. But the weekend was spent. I got the dogs out a couple of times, burn off some energy. And got everything mowed, got everything raked. Got all the lawn ornaments and the frogs and you know how the ladies get when they're decorating the garden. They got shit everywhere, man. So got all that packed up, and we're ready for the impending snow. So as such, like I said, working outside lots, and then after a day of fresh air, you come inside and, turn on the TV or go on to your device and stuff like that, and then you're reading about all sorts of crazy things. The ceasefire is clearly not working. So the ceasefire is not working, and you got the No Kings protesters, and you got Zelensky, talking about Tomahawk missiles, and nobody's really talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination anymore, which I find odd, seeing that it's one of the biggest political assassinations in my time anyway, because when did Kennedy get assassinated? 1963, I think it was. I wasn't born yet. So this by far is one of the biggest things. Plus, it was broadcast on live TV, right? So I don't know if you've been following that along, but there's sure a lot of questions. And is it me, or am I the only one that thinks that this was like in the news and then out of the news like in the blink of an eye? Which is really odd for a killing of such of such a public nature. Like, I don't think there's anybody that really hasn't. Maybe the Amish, but I don't think there's really anybody that hasn't seen the footage of Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck, and then all the questions that have arisen afterwards. Hang on, I need a drink here. Another factor about this time of year here in Alberta, it gets dry as a fart. Excuse me. So anyway, so his assassination was like in and out of the news, boom, boom, boom. Nobody's talking about Epstein anymore. But all of a sudden there's some more shit that came out on Epstein. So now Prince Andrew has relinquished all his royal titles. Basically, everything's coming out at a snail's pace. And I don't think I'm the only one that feels like I am getting lied to and manipulated every stretch of the way. So Charlie Kirk, it's been a little over a month since he was assassinated on live TV. Lots of questions have arose. Why does everybody think that Israel had something to do with it? Anybody out there know? Well, here's my theory on it. I think that they've been trying to, when I say they, I think the Zionists that are actively operating in the United States of America, it's clear that they've infiltrated the White House. I mean, Ted Cruz, if you've seen the interview with Tucker Carlson, where he's quoting Bible verses pertaining to Israel that are not in the Bible or are completely misquoted and wrong, and in how he interprets those things. Anyway, it's pretty funny and it's pretty obvious. We've all known this for a long time, and that's that the Jewish lobby is huge in American politics. And pertaining to Charlie Kirk, they were trying to silence Candace Owen, and God bless her, she had the goods on all of them. So she would wait until these people that are like, oh yeah, she's a kook and she's got postpartum depression because she just had kids, and her and Charlie had an affair, and just running this poor godly woman through the mud for no other reason other than she watched her friend get shot in the throat and murdered on live TV, and she wants to know who did it, and she wasn't buying the narrative. And the more she looked into it, I'm not buying the narrative either. It harkens back to the JFK assassination and Lee Harvey Oswald in the book depository with a fucking, with a spitwad shooter and a fucking, and a scope made out of fucking marbles. I'm being facetious here, but like, you get the idea. Like, they sold a yarn as to what happened to John F. Kennedy, and coincidentally, the Jews are mentioned in that as well. It's a coincidence how they always show up. So, is it, the coincidence, and again, I'm just saying that it's no coincidence that that John F. Kennedy was trying to get the Jewish lobby, the AIPAC, to register as a foreign agent, as a foreign lobbying group that lobbies American foreign policy on behalf of a foreign government. And they didn't want to do that. And he insisted, because he had caught the Mossad spying in America for many, many years, and having carte blanche to do so because they're not registered as a foreign entity. So he was trying to change that. He gets his brains blown out very publicly. They like to do things publicly because it has shock and awe value, right? Because the other people that are thinking, yeah, I don't really agree with what they're doing, they're going like, I better toe the fucking line, otherwise I'm going to find myself with a third hole in my head. So coincidentally, JFK wanted the Israeli foreign lobbyists to register as foreign agents, basically. And they didn't want to do that. And right before he basically gave them the deadline, here's what you got to do or we're booting you out, he wound up going on a parade for one last time. So back to Charlie Kirk. As I said, Candace Owens, she has the goods. She lets these people paint themselves into a corner, and then she's like, yeah, boom, what about this? So in Charlie Kirk's own words, anybody that's read that would be of the impression that at the very least he was having a change of mind as to the state of Israel and the power of the Jewish lobby in America, which was primarily a lot of his donors, right? He was having a change of heart. And this change of heart was rubbing his Jewish donors the wrong way. They gave him like tons and tons of money, and they give you tons and tons of money in order for you to shill for them, if you will, right? They want you to pass things that are in favor, not of America, but are in favor of the state of Israel. So you can see for someone like Charlie Kirk, who was like he was certainly a man of principle. Let's just say that, right? So being a man of principle, if he's going out on the college campuses and the high schools and all his rallies and events that he's doing, and he is espousing the platform of America First, which he has. Google it, like watch his things, the trans issues, America First, traditional family values, he was a man of principles. He stood for those principles. America First, he stood for those principles. So you can see how a man like Charlie Kirk, a man of principles, who is espousing of America First, would be conflicted when he realizes how much power the Jewish lobby has in his country. And him even talking about having a change of heart and resisting the zealous Israeli First donors that are like just peppered throughout American politics and throughout American society. If you look in how Tucker Carlson recently turned, how Candace Owens had recently turned from their very pro-Israel former platforms that they were on, how they have completely turned and, called Netanyahu's regime genocidal and, and how they took umbrage when he was beating the war drum to go, for the United States to go to war against Iran. So you can see that a country that is so heavily reliant on the United States, they always claim they're each other's biggest allies, right? So you can see how a country that's so reliant on the United States could potentially see that a man of Charlie Kirk's power, he basically handed Trump the election because of the youth vote that turned out in record numbers and in swing states that he desperately needed to win. The youth vote took him over the edge kind of thing. There's no doubt about it. So you can see how a man with Charlie Kirk's power, if he's swaying on how he feels about his loyalties to the state of Israel, and by that I mean the government, because by all indications, he loved the Jewish people. He just did not or could not wrap his head around how powerful of a lobby and how powerful money was in American politics. They can make or break you. I think the Adelsons gave Donald Trump 150 or $200 million for his election run, his last election run. So, and I've talked about this before. If I'm giving someone $200 million, I may say, yeah, don't worry, there's no strings attached, but come on, really? I gave you $200 million and I need you to make a parking ticket go away. You think I'm not going to ask you? Or I don't even want to have to ask you. It should be, you're going to just make it go away just because I gave you $200 million. That's how it works, man. And if you think any different, you're fucking stupid. That's how it fucking works, right? So the Adelsons gave Trump $200 million. So he's definitely pro-Israel, clearly. And you can see that a person of Charlie Kirk who's having an awakening, we're all on journeys through life, and some of us are at different parts of the journey, and some people are awakening now, some people have been awake to the goings on for a long time. Whatever the reason, he was having a change of heart, and you could see that a person of his power, if he was to take the American youth, which is not only now of legal voting age, seeing that they helped sway Trump's election, but even the younger ones that are coming up, basically all the Turning Point USA members and offshoots of these members are going to be voting on American policy. Now, they're not the direct threat to Israel, but the threat comes from the fact that they're the ones going to vote on American foreign policy, or they're going to vote people in that are going to vote along their trajectory on what they feel should happen in certain conflicts and yada, 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 right? So you can see that the state of Israel would find Charlie Kirk very dangerous, because if he was to take all those record number of youth voters and stuff and all of a sudden turn them sour to the goings on of the Israeli government, and possibly now down the line for generations voting even anti-Israeli, you could see how a government like that would consider that an existential threat, right? You can see that, right? So, why does everybody think that Israel had something to do with it? Because it's a very plausible reason that they had, if you watch detective movies, they're always talking about motive. Who has a better motive? You think the tranny and the furry lover or whatever was the lone gunman on the roof, and he had a beef about Charlie because Charlie thought that trans people should get psychiatric help and not, and not affirmation? It could happen, but the more likely scenario, given everything that's transpired in the investigation, as I said at the top of this thing, that it's just like up and down in the news. It was there and now it's gone. Don't ask any questions. It was the furry guy with his trans lover on the roof. It was Colonel Mustard in the library with the fucking candlestick holder. And they just want you to fucking forget about it. Jeffrey Epstein, forget about it. Nothing there. I know for 2 years we've been telling you, when the lists come out, it'll blow your mind. There's these people and prominent businessmen and prominent politicians and prominent socialites. And then 2 years later, it's like, no, is that what I said? No, there was nothing, man. Nothing. So you can see how a government like Israel would see this abandoning ship as an existential threat. And my opinion is they totally had something to do with it. It's just weird that Netanyahu announced Charlie's death before President Trump did. That was weird. Like, how do you know? You're in Israel fighting a war, remember? Like what? He's keeping tabs on Charlie? You know what I mean? Give me a fucking break. The investigation just up and down. They were, there was people all over the crime scene during the event. There was a lot of unanswered questions about where's all the footage from the SD card that was removed from the camera, right? Where is at this point you'd always have forensic evidence, ballistic evidence. We recovered the bullet from Charlie Kirk's magic neck, the 30-06 that'll blow through an elk, but he had exceptionally strong bones in his neck that prevented people in behind catching a stray round. Like, the bullshit that they're trying to get us to swallow is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I mean, they found fragments of the bullet. Nobody has ever said that those fragments are consistent of a certain type of rifle that was fired. Ballistic experts, military experts, medical experts from all over the world. I guess everybody becomes an expert when something like this happens publicly. Look at me spouting like I know. I don't know. I just have my gut feeling. You know what I mean? And sometimes, that's all you got. And sometimes you should be listening to it, right? So, I don't know, but I know. And I think most of you out there are probably along the same lines. We don't know, but you know. So the magic bullet, nothing was ever, there's no autopsy report. Usually Michael Baden is all over the news talking about this and that. Remember when Epstein, he was the one that was on the news where it was like, yeah, this isn't really a consistent, this isn't consistent of hanging. This is consistent of being fucking choked to death, right? So you have those experts that always come out of the woodwork. They're, eerily absent in all of this. You have the FBI that usually comes in, they look at Lee Harvey Oswald. They paraded that guy out holding the rifle up, and nothing in this Charlie Kirk thing has ever transpired the way that you've seen any sort of other investigation transpire, So it begs the question, you can at least ask, did they have something to do with it? Because they certainly had a motive. If he was to hijack, like I said, generations of youth voters into a more, at the very least, critical eye of the state of Israel and what's going on and what they're doing, it would be detrimental to them. So they certainly had a motive. But we're not hearing anything about it. P. Diddy, same thing. Epstein, same thing. There's no list. He didn't do nothing. But his sidekick is spending 20 years in prison. I heard her appeal got denied. So, they locked up an innocent woman for the rest of her natural life, basically, because nothing happened? No, man. Folks, wake up, man. There's a narrative going on. The No Kings thing, it's a narrative. Somebody is trying to manipulate all of our minds. The pro-Palestinian protesters, right? The war's over, go home. No, that isn't what we were protesting for. We weren't really, really protesting about the war ending. We're protesting this now. They always move the goalpost, man, and it's never ending. Like I said, it's going on all over the world. Everywhere that we look, in all westernized countries where we consider ourselves free, We're being lied to, we're being manipulated, and when we start to stand up and push back, they just change laws. They just change laws, and it's like, yeah, you're not allowed to do that anymore. I know it's a bitch, but you're just not allowed to do that anymore. The Canadian gun grab, these meatballs that are running our government, they really think that law-abiding, brave men and women are just going to turn over their guns to a government that's already been authoritarian, if not tyrannical, freezing people's bank accounts, locking people up that never did nothing. We organized a protest. Yeah, that's allowed. Our Charter of Rights. I was reading somewhere. I believe that draconian Bill C2, the internet thing. I heard that was quashed by the Supreme Court. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. But I heard that was quashed by the Supreme Court. It goes against our Canadian Charter of Rights. Thank goodness. But don't rest on your laurels, folks, because Trudeau's been trying to enact these draconian internet and speech laws for a decade. Carney's no different. Carney's worse. We talk about like the warm side of a pillow and the cool side of a pillow. Well, Carney's the cool side of a pillow if you flipped your pillow and it was cool and it had shit all over it. That's what Carney is. So don't rest on your laurels, folks. You got to keep on top of it because they're going to find some other loophole in order to sneak this and slither it into legislation. And that's how they work. They get pushback when citizenry who's getting taxed to death is not being represented. They push back. And these monsters, when they hold on to power, they want to hang on to power. Nobody's ever gotten power and then relinquished it free of will. You had to fight for it, and you had to knock some heads in order to get it from them. And that's what we're experiencing now all over the world, here in Canada as well. They're just going to legislate a little at a time, and then before you know it, it's like that analogy that I once said when people that chain their dogs, if they take like a link off that dog's chain every day, the dog won't even notice that he only has 2 links left and can't do nothing about it, right? He's secured, he's anchored, and there's nothing he can do. You can fight, but not when someone has you by the throat. And that's what they're doing, a little at a time. George Soros funds these No Kings protests. They don't do anything other than get delusional people out on the street that, don't know what they're talking about. Trump was elected democratically. These guys are protesting the end of democracy. They want to oust a guy that was democratically elected, and they're talking about that the other side is the end of democracy. It's crazy. Up is down, down is up, left is right. We're living in fucking bizarro world. Anyway, folks, Halloween is upon us. So, like I said before, the festive season, October, November, December, January kind of thing, beginning of January, the new year. The festive season is upon us. So, folks, with today's ride options that are out there, Uber, Lyft, taxi, bus, the footmobile, like we used to call it back in our day. We weren't pussies. We could walk somewhere without blowing a gasket. Anyway, with today's options and stuff like that, don't drink and drive. Kids are on the road at Halloween. You don't need to be, a fifth of whiskey deep driving home and running over some ghost and goblin. So don't drink and drive, folks. Stay safe out there. Stay vigilant out there. Try to open yourself up to some new news sources. check out some of my compatriots: Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, Megan Kelly. I know if you're a lefty watching this, I don't think you're a lefty watching me. If you are though, man, fucking fist bump to you, man. Thanks for hanging in. But stay vigilant, folks. They are playing us, and we are in the midst of a tornado power grab, man. And that's what's going on. You can see it everywhere that you turn. So stay vigilant and take care of yourselves, man. We will see you next week. To my buddy that sent me the thing about the vaccination, I promise I'm going to do a show for you, man. I'm going down the rabbit hole, and it's pretty wild, man. It is pretty wild, and it's hard to, it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that it was like literally a giant experiment. We were a giant lab rat. We were lab rats, man. So anyway, take care of yourselves, stay vigilant, and love one another. We'll see you next week. I don't know what else to say. I got more yard cleanup to do. See ya!